Melanie's about to learn what happens when you play stupid games. This is the last time she's going to play in Sincere's face, and I have a strong feeling that America is about to teach her a lesson. This is deja vu all over again. Let's get into it.
Kay Unscripted, no teeth restricted. In this journey, watch our stories unfold.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. This is Kay Unscripted and I am your girl Kay. Today we're breaking down Love Island USA Season 8 Episode 7. Now before we get into it, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't already, share it with a friend. Thank you so much for those who have been tuning in and listening. I really appreciate it. Now let's talk about this episode, right? So episode 7 picks up right where we left off, the slumber party chaos. And let me tell you, the villa is still trying to process everything that just happened. So everyone's getting familiar with the new bombshells, and apparently Bryce knows Jen, or at least that's what we heard Trinity say, right? Now Trinity, Melanie, and Kayda are sitting together, and Kayda immediately lets Melanie know that Sincere was feeling some type of way about her over-exaggerated behavior when she saw Caleb come into the villa. And she's like, oh, that was for Kenzie. Girl, I don't know if I believe you, but whatever you say. Now, once everybody settles down a bit, the girl bombshells are with the guys, and so it's finally time for proper introductions. Jen starts things off by telling the group she's originally from Florida, but now lives in Los Angeles, where she works as a model. Before she could even get into her whole story, Bryce casually drops another little bombshell. He does confirm that he knows Jen. Apparently, they shot some content together just a few months ago, and Jen also confirms it. Then Saul introduces herself. She explains that she's from Orange County, now lives in LA. She works as a waitress and also works at the front desk of a gym. Jen shares that walking into the villa was nerve-wracking for her at first, but once she got into the challenge and started interacting with everyone, the nerves quickly disappeared. After that, the attention shifts over to Caleb, who finally gets the chance to properly introduce himself outside of the challenge to the ladies. So he tells everyone he's 21 years old and originally from North Carolina before moving to Charleston, South Carolina about a year ago. Then he started explaining his work history, and honestly, this man has had a resume, okay? He said he worked on cars for a couple of years, and then he got into welding during his college time. He was making commercial air conditioning units and eventually transitioned into installing elevators full time, okay? Of course, once the introductions were done, they started flirting a little bit. Trinity asked Caleb how he feels about blondes with blue eyes, and she was definitely being a wingwoman for Kenzie. Now, back in the convo with the guys, Corbin throws out the question about relationships and red flags, and we do see Jen saying that she cannot stand men who complain when she plays Taylor Swift. Now, I was expecting a different response, but okay. Anyways, Cynthia then asked about red flags to Saul, and she said it's someone who's too nonchalant. She explains that she needs someone who openly shows interest instead of acting distant or playing games, because nothing is more frustrating than trying to guess how somebody feels, right? And we cannot read minds, and we don't have time for that, right? So now the bombshells are kind of checking the temperature of the guys, right? They want to know what's up with their relationships or who they're coupled up with. Corbin, he straight up says, oh, so you know the girl who was shouting the loudest? Yeah, that's Cynthia's girl. And so Cynthia now lets it known that Melanie's behavior is a huge red flag for him, and he's very much open to having all the conversation he needs to have. And I said, period, Cynthia, okay? Now the bombshells all gather together to spill the tea to each other, and so Caleb notes that no one is really closed off, and Saul does mention that she's interested in getting to know Corbin and Sincere. Now the guys are talking about the girl bombshells And we see Casey kind of saying that he finds Saul to be attractive and that she reminds him of his ex. Meanwhile, Annaya's upset at the comment Casey made earlier. Now, yes, the comment pissed me off, but I need some more context before I spaz, okay? Then Melanie's gonna open up her mouth and say if Cynthia likes any of the bombshells, she's going to be pissed. And I'm like, girl, bye, okay? I hope the bombshells steal Cynthia from you, at least one of them, okay? But let's wait later because we're gonna get into that, right? Now, Zach tells Cynthia, hey man, I hope you know her behavior had nothing to do with Kenzie. And I'm so glad that they're calling her out on it. I wish the girls were doing the same, but we do see the guys pointing it out, right? Now, Cynthia says for him, though, it wasn't about kissing all the guys because he knows it's a challenge. For him, it was the way in which she went about doing it. And I agree with him. She was playing in his face. And honestly, I don't think Melanie respects Cynthia, and it shows. Point blank period, right? Gabriel's now saying that he's gonna get with his feelings because he's still open to exploring because apparently Jen is his type. Now tell me, why did Bia say, oh, she is his type, referring to Jen, right? And she's like, she has big boobs, she's blonde, I don't have big boobs, I am not blonde, plus I'm missing a foot. And I'm like, girl, I'm not about to play with you, Bia, please, you play so much. That was funny, okay? So then we get to Cynthia and Melanie, right? Cynthia pulls her for a chat and he doesn't waste any time sugarcoating how he really feels. So he straight up tells her that he felt embarrassed and disrespected during the challenge because from where he was sitting, she was bouncing back and forth between him and Corbin like she was playing some kind of ping pong game, right? He explains that watching it happen in front of everybody made him feel foolish, and honestly, you could tell his feelings were genuinely hurt. Melanie starts to apologize and she tries to explain herself. She keeps insisting that she had no idea she was interacting with Corbin because she was literally blindfolded and couldn't see anything. She also says Cynthia seemed convinced she knowingly chose Corbin over her, but that's simply not what happened from her perspective. Now, she knows she's lying, and honestly, Cynthia, you were really too nice about it, if I'm being quite honest. But he tells her that what really got under his skin was the way she reacted the second she saw Caleb entering the villa. He says all they saw were the man's feet, yet Melanie was already jumping up and down, throwing the pillows and acting a whole fool, right? While he was sitting there and his hand was literally in the air. And to him, it felt like one of those moments where his feelings were not being considered. Now, once Melanie started hearing him say that, she starts to reflect on her behavior, and she did admit that she probably does too much sometimes without realizing it. She said she wasn't really jumping around because Caleb was her type, but it was because that was Kenzie's preference, right? She said that she was really just playing around with Kenzie in the moment, but she can now see how it looks from Cynthia's perspective, and I still don't believe her. Melanie, girl, you done pissed everybody off, and you're about to find out what happens when you play stupid games, okay? Anyways, Annayia pulls Casey for a chat, and immediately she lets him know that she's upset, and from Annaya's perspective, it looked like he was having entirely too much fun, and I don't get that, okay? But she tells him she feels like he did a little too much, even calling out the fact that it looked like he had his arm around one of the girls. Now, of course, Casey immediately starts to defend himself and he's like, no, that's not what happened. Now, according to him, the bombshell put herself between him and Gabriel, and he wasn't really out there trying to cuddle up with anybody. Y'all are getting all up in your feelings over the smallest things. I thought we would hear her addressing the comment, but that didn't happen. Besides that, Casey didn't really do anything out of the way, in my opinion. But what I will say is Casey handled the conversation pretty well. He didn't try to tell her she was overreacting. He apologized, he acknowledged her feelings, and admitted that if his actions hurt her in any way, he needed to do better, and I liked that. Zach and Kayda have a chat. He feels like she was being way too performative when Caleb was kissing on the girls, right? He shared that while they were all cool when Corbin came in and laughed it off with everything that happened between the girls and Corbin, they were cool, but the girls are now getting upset and in their feelings because the girl bombshells came in, and when it was time for them to have fun, they were in their feelings about that. Now, Kayda does apologize to Zach, and we also see him saying that he is closed off with her. But that's going to come up later, right? Anyways, the islanders head to bed, and we get to the next day, and per usual, breakfast is served to the girls by the guys, right? Now, we do see the first conversation for the day between Beatrice and Caleb. The two start talking about languages, and Beatrice is telling him that she needed to teach him. He's asking Beatrice to teach him some Spanish because he doesn't really know too much, right? He did share that he once dated a girl from Germany and tried to learn German on Duolingo for her. Now, whether he actually remembers any German is another story all in itself, right? But we also do find out that this is the first time Caleb has actually left the country. And so this is his first trip, and that's a big deal for him. Now we move over to another conversation with Gabriel and Saul, right? They have a chat, not another. They have a new chat, right? He talks about his dream date, but the two kind of shift over to soul ties to continue the conversation. He said it was too hot during the sun, right? But then we glimpse over between the conversation with Bea and Caleb, and she's expressing that if Gabriel likes a bombshell more than her, what is she going to do about it? And Caleb said, well, that's what I like, because he himself, he just always has a positive outlook on life. But then we shift back to the conversation between Saul and Gabriel, and the two are talking about what they like in a partner. And Gabriel pretty much said to Saul that he sees her as being very mature, she's attractive, and someone who knows what she wants, and he likes that. And then all of a sudden, he just goes in for a kiss, and you could tell that she was taken aback by the kiss. She wasn't really expecting it. And baby, Saul did not enjoy that kiss at all. I am not surprised that Gabriel is kissing Saul, because like I said in my previous recap, he doesn't look that into Bea, and he comes off very sexual in my opinion. And now that he's not really being that sexual with Bea, he's bored, okay? Now, he was thinking around, right? Because he almost got caught by Annayia, and he's like, did anyone see us? But Beatrice is going to find out, right? Okay. So let's talk about this conversation between Bryce and Trinity. And now tell me why Bryce is so pressed about what Melanie did. Because at this point, Cynthia and Melanie have already discussed it. So how is that your business? Bryce, shut the hell up and mind your business, okay? Anyways, he shares that some of the other guys are upset about the way the girls acted when Caleb came into the villa, but he himself is just cool as a cucumber, okay? Because he feels like Trinity handled herself very well. So Trinity is like, well, anyways, how do you know Jen, right? His explanation didn't really make sense to me, but it had to do with being a fake boyfriend for a brand, and he doesn't say he doesn't like her. In my opinion, he didn't really say that. He just said that they don't have real chemistry, and I feel like he does want to explore with Jen. He just hasn't had the chance to do that yet. But Trinity was like, but yeah, that's like us, that's how we are. And that right there is the point, right? Your point doesn't land, Bryce, okay? Anyways, Cynthia and Annayia, they have their regular therapy sesh, right? He's still stuck on what happened during the challenge with Melanie and feels like she was moving a little too freely for his liking. Meanwhile, Annayia is also nodding along because she feels the exact same way about Casey. Meanwhile, Melanie is talking to Casey, and she's like, oh, Cynthia is upset and feels like I did too much. But I honestly didn't know it was Corbin because I was blindfolded. Now, Casey was not with the shits, right? He's like, Mel, I love you and all, but you're lying, girl. You knew it was Corbin. And she finally does admit that she messed up. and she played too much. Oh yeah. Oh, now you know, right? Judge Lynn Toller calls it the stupid tax. But we'll get to that later, not just yet, alright? Now, back in the convo with Cynthia and Annayia, she said that Casey talked about still being open, and he also did mention being attracted to Saul. And here goes Cynthia saying, oh yeah, he told me she looks like his ex. Now, Cynthia, why did you have to tell her that? Why did you have to tell her that, Cynthia? Now you have the girl stressed, and now you're gonna tell her, oh, don't tell him I told you. Cynthia, what are you doing? You really think she was going to keep that information to herself? My goodness. Now, y'all, this conversation kind of caught me off guard, right? Between Kayda and Zach, right? After Zach spent so much time reassuring Kayda that he was all about her, he suddenly starts talking about how saying he's closed off might have been moving a little too fast for him. And immediately you could see the confusion written all over Kayda's face. Now, Kayda is not the one to play those games with. Didn't he know that? But anyways, basically, Zach is trying to explain that being closed off is a huge commitment in the villa, especially when it's only been a week. He says he's really into Kayda and he does want to keep pursuing her, but he also doesn't want to put himself in a situation where he feels trapped when a new connection comes along. Now, I understand what Zach was trying to say, but why did you have to say you were closed off to begin with? Because from Kayda's perspective, she's saying, I like you, but I might still want to explore with other people. And that is fine. But you shouldn't have told her that you were closed off to begin with. Now, you could literally tell that she was putting her walls back up. And she even said she's wondering if the connection isn't as strong as she thought it was. And then she says, well, you know what? I'm going to talk to the new bombshell, okay? Now, Zach was kind of backtracking, and I'm like, now, are you shocked? Did you not learn that Kayda is not the one to play those games with? So he then proceeds to pull Jen for a chat. So they sit down and get to know each other. Meanwhile, Kayda is feeling some type of way once she peeped him pulling Jen for a chat. And I'm like, girl, please relax, okay? Chill. Now, Zach lets Jen know that while he's happy with Kayda, he doesn't want to be closed off too early. Now, child, the girls are stressing bad because we then take a glimpse into a conversation with Bia and Gabriel. She's letting him know, hey, I know Jen is your type. The girls all know that she's your type. But I'm hoping that you'd be honest with me if you like her. Now, he hasn't really talked to her yet. That happens later on in the episode. But that was an opportunity, though, for him to mention his kiss with Saul. He didn't do that, though. Meanwhile, Miss Kayda pulls Caleb for a chat in Soul Ties. So she mentions that she and Zach are still open. And he's a little mad at the kiss. And y'all, Kayda was laughing so loud. We know she was doing it on purpose, right? She was laughing so loud that Zach could hear her from downstairs. And I screamed so much. I said, Kayda, Kayda is so petty, right? But Caleb does talk about his parents' relationship and how they are still together and happy. And that this is exactly what he's looking for. Now, Sincere decides to sit down with Saul. And I actually like this conversation because it wasn't flirting immediately. Instead of leading the conversation with compliments and physical attraction, they started talking about their families and where they're from. Now, Saul explains that her parents relocated from Chicago to California before she was born and that she grew up with one brother. Cynthia does share that he's the oldest of 5 siblings and jokes that being the oldest basically means you spend your entire life parenting whether you want to or not, right? That's just how it just ends up being, right? But the more they talk, the more they realize that they have similar values. For instance, family is very important to both of them, and they both describe themselves as people who naturally take care of others. She also talks about having stress alopecia, which explains her short haircut after grieving the loss of her dad. She also shares that He also shares that he grew his hair because that was something his grandmother requested of him before she passed away. Now then we see Melanie with Kenzie, and she's still carrying the weight of her conversation with Sincere, right? She is replaying everything in her head, and she insists that she never intentionally meant to disrespect him. She keeps saying that she was blindfolded during the challenge and genuinely couldn't tell who she was interacting with. She even says that if she had known it wasn't Sincere, she would have acted differently. But the problem is perception matters just as much as intention, right? She's saying that she does things because she expects him to do the same, but that's not altogether true, because the one time you saw him talking to another girl, you were about to lose your mind. And that's exactly what Sincere keeps trying to explain to Melanie, and she's not getting it through her thick skull, right? He isn't necessarily accusing her of having bad intentions. He's saying that the way everything looked made him feel embarrassed. And once those feelings start to settle in, it's kind of hard to shake it. And plus, you've done it not once, not twice, but you've done it more than once, right? You knew what you were doing. So please, please, Melanie, please spare us the bullshit excuse and stop trying to justify your behavior. You were wrong. You knew what you were doing, and you know for a fact that you took it too far. So anyways, back to Sincere and Saul. He lets her know that he is open and that his connection right now is simply just him having a big heart, but he's not going to keep allowing people to walk all over him. And I said, period, Sincere. Now we see Melanie talking to the rest of the islanders, and she's talking about not having good experiences with guys. And y'all hear me out. I sincerely, pun intended, I sincerely empathize with her. However, girl, grow up. We all have a conscience. We know what's right and we know what's wrong. And like I said, if it was done to you, we all know how you would have been causing a storm up in that villa. In fact, everyone was speaking about your behavior just because you saw Sincere have a conversation with Kayda that didn't go anywhere, right? Call it self-sabotage all you want, but I don't know, Mel. I see through you. You wanted to run this man. You thought in your mind that he wasn't that dominant, and clearly Sincere is starting to put his feet down with you. That is what I see. You thought you could run him, and he's showing you that this ain't your shit, it's his, okay? So will and come again, Melanie. Will and come again. Now, baby, Sincere and Saul were too cute, right? Because we do see them sharing a kiss, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. Sincere, do your thing. Spread your wings. Fly away. Enjoy. Enjoy. Then we move on to Corbin and Kenzie, who have a chat about the challenge. He said he was super happy to have one of his fantasies fulfilled. Cringe, cringe, cringe. I do not like Corbin, and you all already know I'm not feeling Kenzie that much. Anyways, he lets her know that he has no intentions to pursue any of the new girls. Kenzie, however, shares that she finds Caleb attractive, but she hasn't had a chance yet to talk to him. I do feel like Kenzie does want to have something with Caleb, and once she does get to talk to him, she's definitely going to be forgetting about Corbin, okay? Now, Annayia was spiraling a little bit, right? And she said she needed answers from Casey immediately. And so once he pulls her for a chat, she was just like, look, I don't feel good. She shares the information that Sincere told her about the ex statement. And Annayia was not feeling secure about hearing all of that, right? Casey, he kind of doubles down and says he didn't say that, but I'm like, sir, you know you said it, okay? You should have just owned that, because it's not that deep, right? He tells her that he's not about to throw away what they have for someone who just came around, and that's all Annayia needed. They were good from that point on. So we get to later on in the evening. Everyone gets dressed and ready for the night ahead. And so we do see the first chat for the night between Jane and Gabriel. So the two, and then he asked if he is her type. She said she was more into finance guys, and so Gabriel, no, she's not your type. You're not her type. Meanwhile, Bia is downstairs saying she's not about to stress herself out over a guy who isn't hers. And I said, I know that's right, girl. Okay, so they start talking about Portuguese, and then they share a kiss, and I'm not gonna lie, it was too much for me, because at one point I could have sworn his nose was all in her mouth. It was just weird. I didn't God, my goodness. Anyways, Kenzie wasted absolutely no time getting to know Caleb. We know she was looking forward to having a conversation with him, and the second they sat down together, you could tell that there was chemistry. Kenzie said she's been waiting for her cowboy, her country guy, to walk into the villa, and baby, he did show up with his cowboy boots on, ready for Kenzie. Okay, so they start talking about their kiss during the challenge, and neither of them had anything bad to say about it. In fact, Kenzie said she was looking forward to kissing him, and Caleb wasn't exactly shy about letting her know he enjoyed her kiss too. So they do talk about kids, about farm life, and this man literally told Kenzie he kept forgetting what he wanted to ask because he was distracted by her eyes. Okay, so they share a nice little moment, they share a kiss, and now the girl has a roster, right? Because she is now stuck between Caleb and Corbin. Now Saul pulls Sincere for a chat. Hey, and baby, hey, this is exactly what that man needed, right? You could tell. He said she feels like a breath of fresh air. When have we heard him say that about Melanie? All Melanie has been doing is stressing this man out. He probably has grace from all of the stress that Melanie has caused him. Anyways, she says to him that she's going to let him be the one to tell Melanie about the kiss. And he was like, oh yeah, if she asks me, I will tell her. Meanwhile, Melanie is stressing, right? She's like, I want Sincere. Okay, so she starts going on the scavenger hunt to find Sincere. Meanwhile, the Islanders are straight up talking crap about her, behind her back, about her relationship with Sincere. And we do see Bia again saying Melanie has bad communication. And almost everyone agreed that these two should not be together, and they don't see them making it at all or being a couple outside of the villa, except Annayia, okay, who thinks that they make a good couple. Annayia, please. We don't see Sincere letting Saul know that he's interested in her and has butterflies, and baby, the chemistry was chemistry, okay? And child, Melanie is set on finding Sincere, and everyone's just watching this go down, right? Saul says that she's equally interested in him, and y'all, they shared another kiss, and that was so smooth how they finished kissing the moment Melanie opened the door. That was close. Now, as Saul makes her way back down to meet the rest of the crew, Melanie's asking Sincere, well, what happened in her? Baby, he said, well, a little of everything. What you mean, Sincere? What does that mean? Now, anyways, he just tells Melanie that they were just talking and that Saul is cool and he doesn't want to explore the connection with her, but doesn't mean that he doesn't want to keep connecting with her. Melanie, she didn't look happy. No, she didn't look happy. And I honestly, I didn't care, okay? I was happy. I was just happy for Sincere, okay? Anyways, she started to pour her heart out, saying that she likes him and that she does see them be on the villa, going on a date. And she's so sad seeing him chatting with other people. Girl, boo-hoo. Boo freaking hoo. Alright? She's saying that she's sorry, she's going to do better. And then she's asking him, so did y'all kiss? And he's like, oh yeah, we did kiss. But it wasn't really nothing because, you know, no one can compare to you. Sincere, please stop trying to soften the blow. You said yourself that Saul was a breath of fresh air. This girl has been playing in your face for the longest. So now don't try to take it down or tone it down or double down on your feelings and lie about asking for a kiss because you said, oh, I didn't ask for a kiss. She kissed me. Please, because the first kiss, you did ask for a kiss, okay? Please don't piss me off, okay? Now, he was trying his hardest not to get into the kiss too much, to give any details. But she kept asking him questions, and in that moment, she peeped that two can play that game. Melanie, that right here is called the stupid tax, as the famous Judge Lynn Toller always said. You play stupid games and it comes with stupid prices. And that is where we're going to have to leave things off, because baby, the bombshells came in and immediately started shaking the table. Honestly, I'm just happy for my guy Sincere. I hope he goes all the way with Saul. But then again, who knows what happens? Maybe he and Melanie might make up. We don't know. But I need to hear from y'all. What do you think about Sincere and Melanie? Also, who do you think Saul should couple up with? Because we know a recoupling is coming up. Same for Jen and also for Caleb. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of my recaps. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning in. Until next time, bye.